Hello YNABers, my name is Jesse Meekum from YNAB. It stands for You Need a Budget. Yes, you do. This is another Whiteboard Wednesday. Today I want to talk about debt accumulation and then pay down and focus on this pretty little graph. What we have here is our time along the x-axis and the amount of debt increasing on the y-axis. You can see my little stair-step line here. That's the red debt increase. Every time we go into debt just a little bit, that thing bumps up, and over time the total debt accumulates. Lots of times, most of the time, 85% of the time, people accumulate their credit card debt. You can look at cars and things and say, oh, house, that was a big debt one-off, or a car, that was a big debt one-off, but I'm talking about more of the unsecured credit card debt, that kind of thing. Most of the time, that accumulates very slowly. And that's why you get people that just kind of suddenly wake up one day and say, oh my word, what have we done? What happened? A lot of the times, you can see I've marked where the blame happens. A lot of times, that final little boop that bumps you up over whatever threshold you have for alarm, that final little boop, that's the technical thing that happens, is where you're like, oh, this is suddenly bad. And we blame that one final little, I won't do it again, thing that happens. So it might be suddenly, the transmission goes out in your car, or even just you need new tires on your car, something even less expensive, or you need a new refrigerator. And normally you'd say, well, okay, that's not all of our debt. You've racked up 12 grand of debt or whatever, and you're buying a refrigerator for 800, $1,000. I don't know. That didn't cause the 12 grand, but it's this one last little thing where you say, oh my gosh, why did this happen? Why now? Why this month? And we all know there is no normal month, and this is just living, right? So you get blame on that final little straw that breaks the camel's back, and then you become aware, sometimes hyper aware of the situation. For some reason, when we look at our debt and we're finally in this little area where we're like, what happened? For some reason, we feel like we can just take this one little slot of time and say, oh, all of the credit card debt happened right here, which means that in the time all that credit card debt accumulated and our vision's focused on this last thing, this last recent event, bad event that happened, that's getting us focused and saying like, man, all this debt's suddenly here. And our feeling is it should be gone in the same amount of time, that tiny little window where it's like, suddenly I'm feeling like I have a lot of debt, suddenly I need to pay it all off. You do need to pay off your credit card debt because it keeps you from giving every dollar a job. If you read our debt guide on the site, you can read all about how when you're in debt, that debt is speaking for the dollars before you even have a chance to say what those dollars are doing. You're just paying for past you instead of paying for current you and future you, setting future you up for some good times. So you do want out of the credit card debt, but I don't want your focus to be, I got all this debt all at once, I should be able to pay it off all at once. You're setting yourself up for disappointment, right? So we look at a slope coming down to pay off that debt. It will not be, though. It will not be as long. I mean, if I were to draw a slope line here, just to mess up my pretty picture, if I were to draw one here, it's pretty much right up that way. That's our slope line, and we just kind of incrementally not abided by Rule 2 most likely and been hit by all sorts of emergencies, and just slowly over time you accumulate a debt, hundreds of dollars at a time, thousands of dollars at a time, until we're standing here over this amount of time. This is what we call the no intention area. You just weren't being intentional with your money. Were you purposely doing this? No. But did you lack intention? Absolutely. Most likely. If you're in this 85%, most likely, right? Okay, let's just go there. So, when you have lots of intention, and that means following Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 3, Rule 4. Rule 3 kind of keeps you on track. Rules 1 and 2 is all about intention, intention for now, intention for the future. And Rule 4 is just to give you some breathing room, frankly, where you're aging your money. So with intention, what I'm saying here is lack of intention creates this slope that is, whatever it is. When you have lots of intention, you don't need to have that same slope coming back down where you pay off your debt right over here. You can really get that steep slope and bring it down here. I'm not saying you go hog wild crazy on everything and do something that is totally unsustainable, but I am saying that you operate at a high, call it financial heart rate, something that is uncomfortable, because I want you to free up the debt, free up that money that was going to the debt, free that up so that you can spend it on stuff you actually care about. Because I would bet anything that all of these accumulated debts along the way, you don't really care about. And you're sitting there saying, yep, really glad I have that thing. Yep, really glad we did that thing. Yep, really glad. No, when you weigh it and you look at the debt you're carrying now, the stress it's causing, that threshold that you hit that set off that alarm, and you think about all of that, you think, is this stuff all worth it? Was your hand forced some of the time? Yeah, it was probably forced. For most of us that live, frankly, in a lot of bounty, for most of us, it was forced because we lacked intention, we weren't planning ahead, we weren't following Rule 2, and we just got caught on our heels. So, it happens. That's just part of living and learning and moving forward. So we're going to move forward and recognize that as you follow Rules 1 and 2, use Rule 3 to change as you need to, use Rule 4 to give yourself some breathing room, reduce your stress. As you do that, as you have just intention permeating your finances, that debt will just go away. And it's not because I'm sitting here saying, pay it off, go crazy, go crazy. I'm just saying, get aggressive, be intentional about what you want your money to actually do, and then maybe just watch what happens. You'd be amazed. I will see you all next week.